Thank you for providing some time to be with us today, Anastasia. How is everything going with you?
Everything's going great. Thank you for doing this with me.
Yes, I know that I've already had an amazing interview with one of your collaborators, Derek Jones, and I love the things that he mentioned as far as the creative aspects of what you two are able to build together. Can you talk a little bit about when you're putting together a concept and you have people willing to collaborate with you? What do you tend to start with in those types of relationships so that you know you're both on the same page?
Oh, that's a tough one. And I don't know that you ever fully 100% figure that out. But first, I start with an NDA.
Yeah, there's a lot of probably innovative things that you don't want leaking out there because
That's a lot of ideas. It's all my creative plans. It's unreleased stuff that may not be released for a while. So that needs to be kept hush hush. So yeah, if someone has a problem with that, then they don't get to be Team Anastasia.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And then I've learned that the hard way. I've had a lot of things stolen, so it's an important part of it.
It's tough to keep that intellectual property safe, but yet still be open enough so that you can bring in different people for certain things and concepts. What do you find that you have the most need for when it comes to collaborators?
I'm definitely a collaborator at heart. I much prefer working with other people than I do by myself. A lot of the initial ideas I incubate by myself, but there's not anything more fun than getting to bring like so many different talents into a room. And I think it's really the fun of collaborating is finding everybody's strengths and weaknesses and letting everyone play to their strengths. And even all my weaknesses, I've learned a lot about how to make them better just from surrounding myself with people that are strong in those places. So it's like the way that I think this, I think this will be okay for you too, but the way that I describe collaborating versus working alone is like the difference between sex and masturbation.
I like that.
You can still get to the same end goal, but it's way more fun when you have someone else.
Right. Well, that's good. Okay.
Bring something great to the table, and it takes a village to pull everything off. I mean,
it is. Yeah. Because it is about that conclusion. Like you're going to get to that point where you say, look at what we were able to accomplish together. And this industry that you're in is certainly about, not always being a one-woman show. And you are also collaborating with people who are not just performers or creatives. Like I think from time to time, you're probably collaborating with brands out there. How do you find those types of relationships building up for you?
We're definitely still new to doing stuff like that. I haven't got to collaborate with many brands, but I love when it happens. I only really collaborate or align with brands that I really believe in and love their products. And usually the synergy is there to just be creative together.
Like you just collaborated with a magazine because they had a concert launch that you headlined. I think that's really interesting because you have a medium that they're putting together things to spotlight other creatives like yourself. Do you see doing more of that kind of work? And you also did, sorry, before I move on to that question, but you've also interviewed yourself. You've interviewed musicians too for publications.
Yeah, I love working with magazines. Mundane is a really cool one because they're one of the only more cutting edge magazines and publications in Nashville that are bringing fashion and alternative musics. And yeah, even they're just a boundary pusher. Luca's from Italy and he's a gem in this town. So that was a really fun show that we got to put together. And yeah, I interview artists a lot for Top Shelf magazine with Derek, and we're going to continue doing stuff like that. And with my own series that I'm starting, we're bringing in all kinds of neat brands and musicians to interview. So I love that process. I can talk to someone about their creative process. I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah, because you have the insight of your own. And then to be able to like approach them in that same kind of level, that's to me very, very awesome.
What I learned is like the core of how people create is similar, but everybody has their own methods.
Is there somebody like that you, maybe even from past inspirations and things like that, that you've definitely found to be like something that you're working towards as far as their level of either vision?
It's so hard to really pin that down because I don't really think a lot about how, I mean, I do think about how I create, but it's not like necessarily always a conscious thing. I grew up a lot in museums and at the opera and the ballet, and I think that a lot of my personal influences come from the productions and drama of those styles of art, because they're just very fleshed out and detailed and beautiful, the costuming and the sets and storylines. And our world today is a lot more like singles based, and it's quick content, and that's tough for me because I'm definitely the opposite as a creator. And so I think if I'm ever consciously looking back at things, it's looking back at really, really old things. But I really just try to do what I want. Like I try to just align with, like, when I'm writing a song, I just try to go into that song and be like, okay, what do I see the content around this looking like? And it's rare that I consciously pull from other things.
Yeah, that's interesting how your brain is more visual sometimes than it is more audible. Because I think some people always talk about, oh, I hear the melody, but I don't always picture how these concepts are working. And it sounds like for you, there's always those nice layers that's constantly going on.
I'm just so married. Like, the idea of making audio without visuals is like not that exciting to me. And when I'm making like melodies and stuff, I write lyrics by seeing visuals. So they are very woven together for me.
And with the costumes and everything too that you have to design with those other visuals, what kind of things are you finding? Tell me about that process.
Yeah, I have a really awesome small team of people that make costumes happen. Lacey Wooten, she's been with me for like a decade now, and all things hair and wardrobe and creative. She's instrumental to my team, and we make costumes together. And my mom, who you're going to talk to soon, she is super instrumental in costuming. And it depends on the project how involved any of us are. So it's very project by project basis, but there's usually not a costume that all three of us haven't put our hands on.
I love your style. It's definitely like bold and memorable, and your hair is purple. And the purple concept, I mean, just other people haven't heard of it yet and they're hearing it for the first time here. Talk to me about, why is your hair purple? What's going on with that? Why purple cult? Why that hashtag?
I've always, as a creative, like even the concept for my album, I tend to do something first and then the meaning like reveals itself to me. And it's always so in line and so right. And I always know that I'm like super on the right path when I find those things. And purple for me, I don't know. My room when growing up was purple, and I just wanted to dye my hair purple. And I did it right before the first music video, The Boy Who Cried Love. And it was definitely a lighter shade of purple then. But after that, I was digging into the meanings of purple, because once I did it, it was like, oh, this is my color. Like there's no going back. And my name means resurrection, and purple is the color of the resurrection. My name means the resurrection of fame and nobility, and it's also the color of nobility. It's the color of uniqueness and individuality and creative expression and the crown chakra and being bold. It's the color that embodies everything that I ever wanted for my brand. Once it happened, I can't see going back. I was born this way. There's an awesome saying in old text that I was born to the purple, and that's how I feel. I was born to the purple.
I like that, because there's people who, we are revealed to their story once they kind of get up there to a certain stage, and we find out that a lot of their looks and preferences was definitely pushed upon them. Like when you think of even historical figures like Marilyn Monroe, they crafted her to be this thing. And what I enjoy about you is like you just revealed to us that this has just been who you've been, even as a young person, that you gravitated towards these things organically, and now finding how they align with certain meanings and stuff. So that's really interesting to me, because you do find that people are in this shell that they never created for themselves, and they're kind of living this duality that doesn't feel very authentic. And yet you definitely are authentic in your ways and how you produce your work.
Going the direction of having anything pushed upon me is not, it just was never even an option for me. Like, no interest. I don't care what, I don't know. That's just never been an option. I mean, it works for some people. Like I know some people, they don't have that core drive to be the creator of their art, and they just are excited to like perform and stuff. And that's cool too. That works for them. No judgment to anybody, but because a lot of the times those people that are not necessarily the face of the art or the music are also incredibly creative people. And it's usually a collaborative process, you know, at labels to create the perfect artist, and then they find the perfect face for it, because not everyone's a performer. So sometimes it's kind of a bizarre collaborative effort to create a brand and a person, and it works. Clearly it's all over the radio. But that's not for me. That's not my life.
I do find that interesting. And that's why this whole A-listers thing is to make sure that there is support for somebody who is going their own way. Because what you do find is when people can't be in control of you or any artist per se, there becomes a lot of friction, and then it slows down potential success, even more success for that person, because there's a lot more egos involved towards like that movement. Whereas where you're at, you really are in the seat of your own vision. And I guess what we're trying to do here as supporters is to make sure that we know the passion that's being thrusted into this journey, and that we know that it's going to take our part to join up with you, whether we're more passive collaborators, because all we can do is just be in the mode of appreciation, or if someone's like listening to this and seeing your work, and if they feel like, wow, I have something that I'd love to offer Anastasia so that she can move forward in some of these other aspects that she's trying to build, maybe help with production and things like that, based on the vision that you're putting together, Anastasia. So that's really why we're bringing this stuff to the table, digging further as far as what makes your story different and why it's going to be such a great ride to be included in many ways. So what would you like to say to people who are maybe more on that passive end, that we just appreciate what you're doing, and we want to be a collaborator in some way, but all we can really do is give you support by attending your stuff and maybe creating some ways to help fundraise, etc. What would you like to say to us?
Well, you asked me earlier about the purple cult hashtag, and the reason why that's kind of become a thing, and why I even bring up the saying, like, I was born to the purple, is that I think that everybody is, and like people, I don't believe in just passiveness. Like, yes, you may not like be a collaborator necessarily creatively in my project, but my hope with that stuff is to inspire everybody to take their life and their dreams into their own hands and find their creative center, because no matter what you do in life, everybody is born to be a creative being. And I think a lot of people just don't tap into it or don't know how to tap into it. And our culture is definitely one that's been pushing more towards numbness. So my hope is to use the vehicles that push numbness, like social media, to inspire everyone to get back into their bodies and their minds and their creative centers. So I don't as passive. I'm like, don't say that, but I know what you mean. Like, yes, not everybody's gonna like, work on a single cover or whatever with me, but also, yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for people to collaborate with. I I'm scouring the internet all the time for people that are doing cool stuff, like no matter where they are in their journey, whether they're brand new or students or massive. We've worked across the gamut, and I love cool people that are doing cool things, and more people that can't be as active, attending everything. Like even buying a $10 poster can, if 100 people do that, that can pay for new lights for a show, or new TVs, or a music video, or a dress, a crazy costume we can make. It's like tiny shows of support that people don't necessarily think about or are on the fence about. Even something small can make a really huge difference when enough people are doing it.
I agree with that. And I know that one art that I really was eyeballing, the Tainted Love cover, or the picture. You said that's something that somebody else collaborated with you on.
Yeah, you should totally interview him. He's so cool.
So what's his name?
Sam Hunt. He is an illustrator that I found on Instagram, and I can't remember how we found each other, but I loved his illustrations, and he's a student, and I was like, hey man, do you want to do a cover? Tainted Love, because I think this one would be so cool with your illustration style. And we worked on that together, and I love like how involved I am in collaborations always is different depending on the artist. Like sometimes, like for music videos and stuff, I'm writing the treatments and then finding the people to pull them off, which is something we're working on right now. But for something like that, I just loved his art and was like, here's the song. I don't want to give you any direction. I just want to see what you do. And that can sometimes be the funnest thing for me, is to be like, here's a bunch of art that I have made. What does it inspire for you, without thinking at all what I'm going to like or care about? And then afterwards I can get in and tweak. But I love giving people that creative freedom within the Anastasia world, which is limitless as long as they stick to the vibe.
That's right. Well, I just thought that when you told me that story the first time, I was like, that is so cool. Like you all met just because, something drew you into his art and he was appreciating your art. And there you go. Like people, you can look that up. The best place I always see it is when I'm looking up your stuff on YouTube, seeing like the different artwork, just the different video concepts you've done. It's always just like, wow, I love this so much. And if you love it so much, make sure you're subscribing to this stuff, because she's putting out such awesome stuff. I just saw a recent, well, to me, it's been recent, but it's not recent actually. Another artist, Pandas, is that right? That you did a song with. I thought that was really neat. I think Derek posted it recently and I said, wait a minute, how come I hadn't seen this video? This is amazing. How is that like when you're coming into somebody else's vision and sound? How was that experience for you?
We worked together a lot musically, the man in the panda head and I, and it wound up becoming a fun project in the end. The music video was really fun, and it was kind of an unexpected thing that I wasn't 100% aware that I was a part of until after it was a thing. But it wound up becoming a fun project.
Well, it made me curious.
I love collaborating. So as I said a million times on this, so I would love to do more of that, where it's a little bit more collaborative.
And you're prepared for sure. But I was like, I got to ask her this question because
those are my demo vocals. I never was given the opportunity to actually record that song.
Oh my gosh.
That's something fun we did, and then it just happened.
That's so wild. Yeah, I was hearing the same thing about like the Whitney Houston, like I Will Always Love You version. It was just like the rough cut, really. And then I guess
I wouldn't compare this to Whitney. So this is a late night, and
maybe one day.
Just having fun.
Right.
But
I was the curious question I had for you was
NDAs. That goes right back to your the importance of the NDA.
My question to you was, I mean, you look so great on camera, look super great cinematically. Like, have you ever been asked to be in people's films? And
no,
the capacity of acting, would you ever be interested in things like that?
Yeah, I think I would. I really enjoy being on camera and getting to play character. And yeah, I love that whole process.
I was very impressed. So I was thinking, I'm going to ask her because you never know.
I don't know. I mean, if the right project and the right role came along, I think I would give it a stab.
Well, I hope to see more of, just all of the things that's coming about. Like I want to be able to support you for sure and get other people encouraged to just check it out and be a part of the A-listers family. There is the Facebook group that we're gathering some people with, and then we'll be putting together some fundraising initiatives because we all know most of us are creatives ourselves, and it takes money. It takes money to make sure certain projects get off the ground. But I love and appreciate just what gets put out there because we need that exposure. We need exposure to new thoughts and ideas. I think it's brave and courageous for people, and especially women, to really shine and showcase what it is that they want to bring out to the world. I definitely honor and admire you for doing that, for taking these different risks artistically and also your time and your energy. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we go?
For fundraising purposes, it's a crazy world we're in right now where art is just super devalued. And I mean, even Spotify is definitely in the mainstream a lot these days, getting ripped apart for how they pay artists. But it's not just Spotify, it's across the board. It's one of the only professions where you're expected to show up and work and do your work for free and hope and then push it out and hope people find it and consume it. And even when they're consuming it and loving it in great volumes, it's still not really returning that much, which is something I know a lot of independent artists are pushing to try to make change and find alternate ways of doing this, because so many of us love what we do, but there's no avenues of support for it. And life would really suck without music and art, and people would just hate their lives. I know that. So I'm with them, hoping to find new avenues, because it is hard to ask for things, and people want to support a lot of artists. So there needs to become a platform that's more conducive to supporting artists, especially independent artists who fund everything out of pocket and don't have that big support. So people like me that are trying to pull off some really crazy stuff. And we can get DIY. We can do a lot with $1. You'd be shocked at what we can do with $1. So it doesn't maybe take much, but takes some.
Yes. Well, if anyone's listening that has any great ideas, feel free to share it. Anastasia gets really busy. So if you want to just find our information, if you go to Anastasia Music, if you search that, you'll land on a couple of different sites, but one of the sites that you'll land on is the support page. And we have a Fractured Atlas campaign that we'll be putting together, which will be available at any time. But once in a while, we might be doing like a very specific campaign where you can get some goodies as well. So that's always fun, so that you're supporting and also just taking some of that art home with you so that you can appreciate it yourself. I definitely recommend tuning in and watching as many of the videos, sharing them out, because it does help in order for us to get views and get more of those kind of word of mouth type of advertising going for the creative things that Anastasia is putting together. So be out there and share and let us know that you are on board with us as well. So until next time, we'll be interviewing some more amazing A-listers, but I'm just really appreciative of having this moment with Anastasia, just to dive in a little deeper. So thanks, Anastasia. You're awesome.
This is Anastasia Elliot. Thank you so much for listening and spending this time with me today. Your support means absolutely everything. I can't wait for you to continue to see all of the stuff that I'm working on. So please like and follow and subscribe on all social platforms so that you don't miss anything.